From Fukuoka to Sapporo, we've come to love the Yakuza series for a wide variety of reasons. Some come for the hard-boiled crime drama, then stay for the goofy side content, and others the colourful cast of characters that permeate its world. As a long-time Yakuza fan, it makes me proud to see how far the series has come today, but inevitably times change, and with it opportunities for new adventures and experiences. After a few years of catch-up with remakes and spin-offs, Ryuga Gotoku Studio have come to the plate with the latest canonical offering known as the 7th installment of the series in Japan. That's right, times are a-changin', but does the overall quality of the game follow suit for better or for worse? My name is Matt, and this is the New Game Plus TV review for Yakuza Like a Dragon. The game takes place in varying decades such as the early noughties, but mostly concerns itself within 2019, 3 years after the events of Yakuza 6. Aspiring punk Ichiban Kasuga makes his rounds within the Arakawa family with a penchant for diving into danger head first. After an incident lands the gang's captain into trouble, Ichiban is asked to take responsibility for the hit and is sent to jail for almost 2 decades. Years later, as he awaits the admiration of his family, he emerges out of the slammer to no fanfare or glory. Distraught and looking for answers, Ichiban sets off to get to the bottom of a mystery that spans over 18 years. As the previous game in the series wrapped up, so too did the journey of previous series mainstay Kazuma Kiryu, his tale book-ended by Yakuza 6. In Yakuza Like a Dragon, Ichiban serves as the most recent arc of Kamurocho's history and in many ways can be considered a soft reboot. From the get-go, the game spins the narrative on its head, with the Omi Alliance, a major clan from previous Yakuza games, are finally more powerful than the once proud Tojo clan previously led by Kiryu. Players who might not have played any Yakuza game before this one may be confused by the amount of posturing the game does to cement this fact. However, with a new cast of characters and motivations to unwind, Yakuza Like a Dragon is the closest the series has come to being able to jump into the long-running series without any prior history, and that's both a good and bad thing. First off, let's start with the positives. Ichiban Kasuga is a character who feels a little more like a product of the universe he's born and raised in. While thematically he draws a lot of parallels to Kazuma Kiryu, Ichiban still feels like his own character that's almost exclusively owed to his goofier side expressed during his more hot-headed moments. At times he'll come off as brash, others thoughtful and introspective, but the magic of it is contingent on his horrible sense of timing and naivete. It's one of the many reasons why Ichiban lands so well as a cast member, even considering his status as the former member of a scary crime syndicate. His imperfections make him empathetic to the everyman and works as an innocent, silly undertone to the game's darker, more serious moments, which at this point is a well-documented hallmark of the series. Overall speaking, Ichiban is a great conduit that's fit to serve the main themes of the Yakuza series, such as the importance of family, personal responsibility, and the burden of pride. And while some supporting cast members fit well within that mold with Ichiban, the same can't be said for others. With respect for heading into spoiler territory, some characters feel a little underdeveloped and undeservedly sympathized, while others who are reintroduced feel a little cheap and dilutes the significance of major story beats present in previous games. This gives the feeling that Yakuza Like a Dragon is kind of in a bit of a crossroads. It's mixed in its own messaging, that it remains tethered to the past, but refuses to move on despite some major fundamental changes, implying a want and need to distance itself from previous games. Speaking of, if you are a returning veteran to this series, the first changes you'll notice is most certainly within the field of gameplay. Instead of a real-time action adventure, Yakuza Like a Dragon assumes a turn-based RPG format with interactive elements. While roaming around the streets, completing side quests, and getting to the next story activation remains the same as previous games, getting in and out of fights involves turn-based combat, a nuanced job system dictating defined roles within battle, as well as the occasional skill check similar to games like Paper Mario or South Park's Stick of Truth, the latter being a dead ringer in terms of tone and execution. In-game, Ichiban is a self-professed dork and admits his love for RPG games like Dragon Quest and this is expressed constantly within depictions of combat. Where fights against gang members commence, Ichiban's daydream delusions take form of a fight between good and evil, with his party members donning battle garb and taking turns attacking as if they were the 4 warriors of light, like in a game of Final Fantasy. For the most part it works, and the game never fails to poke fun at its contemporary stylings. Things are kept pretty fresh by the aforementioned skill checks, where attack power can be raised by inputting correct button prompts, and defense can sustain blows by timing button presses prior to enemy attacks. Additional features like positioning yourself behind enemies, grabbing weapons off the street to attack with, and enemy lines of sight can help or hinder when it comes to making the most out of your turns, as additional damage can be applied at best and enemies interrupting your turns at worst. This all keeps you on your toes, with enemies sporting different attack animations to telegraph and timing to consider, so you can really capitalize on the compromised position of your enemies. In short, nothing ever really seems unfair, which is one of the game's bigger problems, namely balancing. Upon the initial playthrough, the game positions itself to show the game's economy and systems working a little bit differently in comparison to previous titles, namely being a bit more careful with money and the items you decide to buy or sell off. This feels a little bit temporary as this game slowly regresses back to the series' old ways, perhaps coming off a little too safe in its design. Granted, this may just come down to the fact that this is the studio's first attempt at a weightier RPG experience, but even in New Game Plus mode, you'll probably only find challenge in the side content you might opt to skip. To put it bluntly, if you're looking for a real challenge, you're probably not going to find it in the main story. Another couple of small qualms I had was mainly due to some initial pacing problems, inconsistent encounter rates, and that most in-game dungeons felt devoid of any personality. Intermittently, Ichiban is tasked with exploring dungeons, fighting enemies, and collecting loot along the way, and the game can be a little bit inconsistent on what constitutes the beginning of a fight. Most close encounters will understandably trigger a battle, while running away with a sizable distance from enemies will still manage to rope you into a fight if you were initially planning to run away from it. Admittedly, the dungeon design feels very disconnected from the usual dense and detailed stylings of other Yakuza games, and given the previous allegories to RPG conventions, maybe that's the whole point. Though I can't deny the fact that this goes against the spirit of the series. You may be able to overlook these slight problems with patience, as the payoff involves some impressive set pieces and story revelations, but at the end of the day, it all comes down to how patient you are. Despite that, Yakuza Like a Dragon knocks its visual and sound design out of the park. Running on the same engine that powered Yakuza 6 and Kiwami 2, the game runs on PC and next-gen consoles at a great resolution and steady frame rate, working wonders for reading enemy animations and just exploring the streets of Japan at your leisure. Running the game at a better resolution shows just how much effort was put into the texture work and addressing previous issues with the game engine, like object and environmental dithering. It's definitely recommended if you can wait to play it on next-gen platforms, because of the graphical fidelity really makes the game become an even better vessel for virtual tourism. From my experience, there were a couple of video glitches on the PC version, particularly with reflective surfaces like glass and marble where it would just flicker uncontrollably. Though make sure you have your latest GPU drivers updated, and that problem should alleviate itself if you have the misfortune of experiencing it like I did. As for the sound, the English voice acting is surprisingly consistent across the board, with dual audio and subtitle tracks ensuring a more authentic and literal Japanese translation, similar to the way Judgment's audio was handled. Good audio design is often overlooked, and the localization team reinforces the gold standard on how to offer options to players while respecting the intent of the source material. It's absolutely stellar work, and I hope the team continue to approach future games with the same methods. Pacing issues aside, Yakuza Like a Dragon will run longer than most other games in this series in terms of side content and things to do. Mini-games such as karaoke are a welcome return after the understandable absence in Judgment. After all, Takuya Kimura would have charged a boatload just for one song sung, but new additions such as Dragon Kart and Part-Time Hero being insatiable time sinks, and they keep you coming back for more. While there are less sub-stories comparative to previous games, they are generally better quality and run for longer. You'll have a great time after the first introductory 5 hours of the game, where it organically opens up, allowing you to enjoy previous areas in the series like Kamurocho, Sotenbori, and even the latest locale Ijincho, found nestled in the city of Yokohama. However, when it's all said and done, Yakuza Like a Dragon is an interesting experimental footnote in the long-running Yakuza series. For the most part, it lands its thematic notes, though its tendency to constantly poke fun at the RPG genre and establish a new cast of characters, along with their motivations, comes at the expense of some elements that might alienate some long-time fans. If you're a newcomer to the franchise, you'll overlook a lot of these concerns and enjoy it immensely, particularly if you've got nothing to lose by using the Xbox Game Pass to play it. For the most part, I'd still recommend the game as a series veteran, just be prepared for a few changes that may or may not sit well with you. For more reviews, guides, and access to previous episodes, stay tuned and click the like button on this video. More Yakuza Like a Dragon content is on its way leading up to release, so be sure to hit that subscribe button if you're keen for more Yakuza tips and tricks here at youtube.com/NewGamePlusTV. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.